Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with InsideTheU. Just got done with Jim Larranaga's press conference as he announced that he's stepping down as head coach of the Miami Hurricanes in the middle of his 14th season here in Coral Gables. Miami's 4-8 this year. Just a really rough season, really disappointing season. And coming off that loss to Mount St. Mary's on Saturday, on Sunday, it was kind of he brought it to Dan Radakovic's attention. And then Monday, it was essentially finalized that he will be stepping down. Bill Courtney's going to step in, and just my initial reaction, and there was a lot to take in from today, so I'm going to relay some of the key points from today's press conference that lasted about over 30 minutes. But my initial reaction was I'm not that surprised, and there were a lot of things that were mentioned today by Larranaga that I had been thinking about for the last couple years that I think really played a big factor into today. And I just always felt like this was on the table. Just a rough season. Kind of in recent interviews, he talked about, he made this declaration to the fans, wanted to send a message to the fans that, this team wasn't going to give up and they're going to keep trying, and, these kinds of things. And then also said, the upperclassmen needed to step up. And he also said, defense, for example, this year, he knows that the team needed to play better on defense, and it was a point of emphasis, and basically it just wasn't translating to on the court. And this is a guy that's extremely competitive, won a lot of games in Miami, 274 wins here during his time, the winningest coach in Miami basketball history. During that time, he took Miami to 6 NCAA tournaments, 4 Sweet 16 appearances. So it wasn't that they just got in, they had some good success, and they had the Elite 8 run. First time they did that, followed that up with the Final Four appearance just 2 years ago. And this team won 2 ACC regular season titles, the ACC tournament, they won that as well. So a lot of success, and I think about the successes that this program has had, and the wins over Duke and North Carolina over the years with extremely successful programs, and they were able to stay competitive and win some of those games. A good record, for Miami, and certainly a lot of things definitely did change, and a lot more successes over the years, over his tenure. Certainly this year and the end of last year, Coach was very honest about everything today. Said last year was a disaster. They lost 10 games to end the season. This is a team that finished under 500. They were expected to do well coming off the Final Four appearance and preseason in the top 25, and fell short of expectations for a lot of different reasons. And you felt like last year you want to put that one behind it, and then essentially said that will never happen again. And then this year it wasn't going well at all, and the loss to Charleston Southern amidst a 7-game losing streak. They get a win against Presbyterian, which was the last game I went to, and was able to ask Coach some questions there, and some things stood out to me there too. But the loss to Mount St. Mary's, unfortunately, that's how this ended. An overtime loss to Mount St. Mary's. And, going into ACC play, Miami's next game, January 1st, it kind of gets a reset a little bit. And Bill Courtney will take over as interim coach and the staff. And just thinking about a lot of things that today, but Coach kind of went around and shook people's hands afterwards, after it was over. And he told one of the staff members, just, sorry to put you in this position. That was kind of my takeaway, one of my takeaways from today. The biggest takeaway that I had from today, that Coach said, which is something I'd been thinking about, was that Final Four team a couple years ago, and he mentioned this, and he felt like a lot of events led to this moment. It wasn't just a loss to Mount St. Mary's, and it really wasn't just this season. But he said after that Final Four team, they come back and they have their meetings with guys, and he said 8 players told him that they were going to enter the transfer portal, and his response was, aren't you happy here? Are you happy here? And they said yes. It was just the fact that they could make more money elsewhere. They had more opportunities to do so. And he noted, look, there's 4 players right now playing college basketball from that team that could be on this team. And I'm sure that was a big blow to the program and Larranaga. And those are 4 guys. He didn't mention them by name, but it's Norchad Omier over at Baylor, Wooga Poplar at Villanova, Bensley Joseph, Providence, and Harlan Beverly over at Wichita State. Those 4 guys could be playing right now, and other guys too, but those were the 4 key guys. But I think that was a big factor, and you could understand why. And he mentioned a lot about the transfer portal nature of everything, provided an example, of an agent told him that he could get involved with their guy if they were willing to offer $1.1 million. And Coach just thought it was ridiculous. That's the nature that this is in, and you can understand why. He's a coach that really takes pride in being able to be a teacher. A lot of coaches are. The high school level, they like to be able to teach. You hear it a lot at the college level. This is what he wanted to do, teach basketball. He was asked, what are you going to miss? And he said practices. I wasn't shocked by that. If you know basketball, if you know coaches, a lot of them do say that's their favorite part, the development, the skill training, the trying to get better, everything to try to get the most out of their teams. And a lot of coaches really do love practice, and I wasn't surprised to hear that response. And I think it was great. I urge everybody to watch the press conference, read the comments. I'll have a full transcription of everything that coach had to say today, and I thought it was good. And another thing, the first question from a reporter today came from Michelle Coffin of the Miami Herald, and she asked in her question that it kind of felt like a funeral around here today. And I definitely understood what she was getting to, because it definitely felt like a sad day. It felt like you're honoring someone. You wanted to get, talk about his accomplishments and everything that he had done, but he was moving on. And he said he wants to be involved with the university as much as possible, wants to continue to stay in Coral Gables, and really has a lot of love for this university and for the program. And again, it's not just about the program for him. He wants all of the sports teams here at Miami to do well, and that stood out. But definitely felt like a sad day, and a turning of the page, and we will see where this program goes moving forward. I think initially, if you're looking at some names who could step in and look, I think a lot of coaches are going to want this job. It's in the ACC. They have had success in recent years, and with what Larranaga has been able to build and improve the brand of Miami basketball over his time here, it's an appealing school. There's no doubt about it. It's not a program with a lot of history, but to me, I do think it is a program that a lot of coaches. So I think if you're looking at, coaches that have been successful at lower programs, and Radakovic spoke today that they're going to have a national search and things like that, and he'll get more into that a little bit later. But yeah, I think look at those coaches, but also any coach that went on under Larranaga afterwards to continue their coaching careers. I think it starts with Chris Caputo, the head coach right now at George Washington. He's going to be the first name that's going to pop up in everybody's minds. He left just a couple years ago. He was with Larranaga for a long time, not just at Miami, but before here at George Mason. But there are other guys too. Eric Conkle, former assistant coach on that 2013 championship team, is now the head coach. His second head coaching job over at Tulsa, won a lot of games at Louisiana Tech before moving to Tulsa. Another recent assistant coach, Adam Fisher, who's now in his first head coaching job over at Temple. Another former guy that's at Temple now, and Michael Huger had a head coaching job, was an assistant here. He's another guy that maybe to watch for. If you're, again, just looking at ties, other guys have different resumes. But there are certainly a lot of names that are going to pop up, and it's great seeing a number of his assistant coaches go on to have success. Or Bill Courtney, maybe he's going to step in. We'll see. He's a veteran guy. He's been a head coach before. He's going to be the interim coach, so we'll see if that's an option. Or if they're looking on its current staff, Cody Kimball is a guy, a young coach, looking for his first head job. Whether it's Miami now or another one, I think he's just one of those guys to kind of keep in mind. He was an assistant coach on their championship team a couple years ago, their Final Four team. So I think they certainly have options, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where this program goes from here. There were a lot of people here at the press conference, just reporters and staff members, the basketball staff, the coaches were here. I counted 9 players who were here, and the players were given time off to go back home during this time, during this break before they resume action January 1st there at Boston College, which is their next game. But there were 4 players I didn't see today. I just want to point that out. Lynn Kidd was one, also Jaleel Bethia, AJ Staten-McRae, and Kyrie Huey. I didn't see those guys at the press conference today, but the other guys were, including Nigel Pack, who was still in his boot and for his right foot. He's missed the last couple games, so I do want to point that out. And we'll see. We'll see how this team, how these players respond. And the way Coach was talking, and really, I should have mentioned this earlier, this all just comes down to wins and losses. And Jim's a competitive person, and he wants to win. He's made recent mention of that in a recent interview that he had, and they weren't winning enough, and he understood that. He knew what it took. He mentioned it. Look, he knows the defense wasn't good. They've done a lot of emphasis on that. They wanted to improve their defense, but it wasn't translating to on the court. And look, the players were there, and I thought it was interesting the way he was talking about this team and not going well, and the transfer portal and all these things. But he did say, look, he didn't want to blame the players, but I think the players have a lot to do with this, and I'm very curious to see how they do moving forward, how they respond. And I say that because years ago, I remember an NFL player talking about his college days, and it always stood out to me because he said, and this is a mindset a perspective that I don't think a lot of players have, but they wanted their coaches to get promoted. They wanted to do so well where their assistant coaches got promoted. And I thought that was something, and they didn't want them to get fired or move on, and I thought not a lot of players have that. And I'm curious to see how these players on this year's team take everything that's happened this year, the 4-8 start, and how they will play moving forward. How much onus are they taking on this season, the way it's gone, and the losses, the 7-game losing streak, which is the second longest losing streak for Larranaga in his time here. The longest one was last year that ended on a 10-game losing streak. So Miami 4-18 in the last 22 games. It was just way too many losses, and coach understood that, and he felt like when he addressed the team that there were levels of commitment that he expects from everybody, and he just felt like, he couldn't do everything that he wanted to do and wasn't getting the results that he would have liked. And simply put, he said he was exhausted. And I think that stood out to me. And also, there were just a lot of things with this press conference today and just kind of thinking back on a lot of things that haven't gone right. Sometimes with recruiting, I thought for example, they put a lot of effort into the Boozer twins, and they didn't pick Miami. I think he's not going to mention that, but I think that was a big thing. I think the staff, if they were coming, would that have been different? It's hard to say, but he just spent a lot of time talking about the NIL in college basketball and the transfer portal and wondering how things are going to change because it's becoming like professional basketball, and it just wasn't. He just didn't feel like he was the best person for this job, but he feels like hopefully Miami can get somebody that will be better suited for all the changes college basketball landscape. So we'll see how they do moving forward. I'll have more comments about this, but looking forward to seeing how this team responds, how this program responds. But that's just my initial reaction to the big news of Larranaga stepping down. But I want to thank everybody for your support. Drop in the comments below, what would you like to see from this program? What did you think about Larranaga's tenure at the University of Miami? His 14 seasons, which doesn't happen a lot in college basketball, but he was able to stay here, win a lot of games, and had some really successful seasons that were a lot of fun to cover, a lot of fun to watch. So thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the week. Happy holidays once again. Thanks for your support, and take care.